Our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook have released the over-under win total for your Ohio State Buckeyes in 2023. And after looking at the list of Big Ten teams and the predictions that FanDuel Sportsbook has put together, this one thing might not surprise you. Ohio State is at the top.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, May 12th in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During today's episode, I will rank the 5 toughest games on Ohio State's schedule in the fall, and does Ohio State's regular season schedule prepare them for the college football playoff? I have an answer for you later in today's show. But first, we are here to make predictions all of season long, and it's predictions like, should we bet on something? Should we not bet on something? Will Ohio State go undefeated in the season? Will they have a loss in the regular season? These are the types of predictions and things you might find here on the podcast over the next few weeks and couple of months leading into the season. Well, here on today's show, we have a little betting coming your way as our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook have released the over-under win totals for every Big Ten football team in the fall. That includes your Ohio State Buckeyes. And those of you watching us right now via the YouTube, you see the graphic there on your screen. Ohio State is at the top of the list in predictions for how many wins they'll have in 2023. At the top of the list for the most predicted wins in the fall of a Big Ten team, Ohio State and Michigan, both at 10.5 wins. Third at 9.5 wins is Penn State. At 8.5 wins is Wisconsin. And then at 7.5 wins, you have Iowa, Maryland, and Minnesota. I'm going to leave the graphic up there for you a little bit. You look there at the bottom, Rutgers, Northwestern, Indiana. A couple of those schools are on Ohio State's schedule this year. So you think, oh, that'll be a walk through the park for the Buckeyes when they play the Rutgers Scarlet Knights and the Indiana Hoosiers. Also, at the same time, you're looking at the schedule and saying, well, Jay, hold on. It's Ohio State. You know the roster. You talk about the roster on a regular basis. You see the type of talent that's on the team. You see what the offense might be. You have predictions for the defense. Does it really make sense for FanDuel to make it 10.5 wins and not 11 or maybe even 11.5? I think so. If you just take a look at just the away games, the road games that Ohio State has this year, you're on the road at Indiana in week number 4. They're on the road at Purdue. They're on the road at Wisconsin, on the road at Michigan. I think if I'm a bettor or if I'm a sports book and I am placing the betting lines and the betting odds, I'm going right with where they are. Because if you think about it, Wisconsin's a tough place to play. Purdue, a tough place to play. That might also be a night game. We all remember what happened in 2018 during that season. The Buckeyes, Ryan Day wants to get that sour taste out of his mouth, get back there and obliterate the Boilermakers, but it's still an away game. New coach at Purdue, cool. But also, no one expected Jeff Brom's team to do what it did back then in 2018. Could they have the same magic this year? I sure hope not, but anything is possible, unfortunately. But you also got Michigan and Notre Dame, and those are tough games, man. The Big House is tough, a tough place to play. Notre Dame Stadium's a tough place to play. Camp Randall's a tough place to play. Really, really tough and difficult. Now, you also have a road game against Indiana, a road game against Rutgers. Those should both be cakewalks. Walk all over those teams, blow them out, game's over halfway through the first quarter. That should be how the game should go. And so when I look at it, I think 10.5 wins is the sweet spot. Now, if you're a person that's going to bet the over, that's minus 115. If you're going to go the under, that's minus 105. So the betting and the math doesn't really make sense to put money on Ohio State over or under because you have to put down a lot of money to make some money. So I'm not really saying put money on this. I'm not really a betting person, but every now and then I will add some betting advice. If I was someone that put my money and spent my money in this way, I wouldn't touch it at all. I would not. But also, it helps us put this season into context. They could have easily made this line 11 even. And he probably would get a lot of people to say, oh, okay, I'll touch that. I'll put some money on that. I'll entice that. But you're probably going to be going one way. It's not one way or the other. At 10.5, a lot of you will say, Jay, I can see maybe one loss on Ohio State's regular season schedule, but 2 is no. But do you know what Wisconsin's going to be this year? They have a new quarterback. Do you know what Michigan's going to be this year? Really, really good. Do you know what Notre Dame's going to be this year? It's in a wait and see mode. Do you know if Maryland and Talaya will come to the shoe and shock the Buckeyes? I don't think it's going to happen, but Maryland could be putting up something special this year. Penn State, really, really tough. Might I add now, that Penn State game is smack dab in between a road game at Purdue, a road game at Wisconsin. So even though it's after the bye week, you're going on the road to West Lafayette, come back to Columbus for a game against Penn State. And then you're going on the road to Madison, Wisconsin for a game against the Badgers against the Badgers. So you're kind of seeing like it makes sense. Like if you break down the schedule, just look at the places they're playing. Then you add in the talent on the team, the caliber of coaches, the experience on both sides of the ball, what Ohio State's bringing to the table. Yes, I would love to come on here and say, I think Ohio State's going to be undefeated in the fall. I can't come on here and say that on May the 12th on this Feel Good Friday. I want y'all to feel good. I want to feel good here as well, but also got to be realistic and honest with you. I can't come on here and definitively say and predict an undefeated season for the Buckeyes coming up in the upcoming college football season. One thing I will say, though, is that stretch, Maryland, Purdue, Penn State, Wisconsin, that's a stretch right there where that could shake things up. If Ohio State loses 2 of those games, buddy. Talk about a level of anxiety Ohio State hasn't felt against Michigan in quite a long time. You might be feeling that in the 12th game of the year, week 13 of the season, Thanksgiving weekend. And so I do think it makes sense to make the betting line 10.5. I also wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it at all. You can if you want to, but I would just advise you, put some caution there. Now, if it drops to 10, I'm betting the over all day. Also, I don't think that's going to happen. Coming up next, we will hear my predictions as I rank the 5 toughest games on Ohio State's schedule. You've seen the schedule. Some parts are easy, some parts are not, but there are some tough games on that list. Coming up next, I'll rank the 5 toughest games on Ohio State's schedule. You can catch it here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious snack but don't want all of the sugar and calories? Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever. Built. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just the thing for you. Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they are all covered in 100% real dark chocolate. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter puff, and churro puff. You can thank me later. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. Coming up next week, we will be looking to schedule an updated recruiting update. It's been a while since we've had one. The everydayers remember the things John Garcia Jr. said on the show every time John was with us, providing us with the information we want to know about the players Ohio State is recruiting. I have been hinting at discussing, some say the best linebacker in the country in the class of 2024, Sammy Brown. And if Ohio State is in the running to get him, if he may commit to be a Buckeye, well, that may come up soon. But be looking out, subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, the Odyssey app, so you don't miss a beat, so you're notified, and so you know when the next recruiting update has hit your feed. I like compiling lists. It's one thing that I do every now and then. Big basketball guy, NBA guy when I was younger, and so there would be times people say, what's your top five best players of all time? And I could give you a list. Who's your best top 3, top 5 shooting guards of all time? And I got a list for you. Who if you had to get your top 5 favorite point guards to watch, who's on that list? And I got a list for you. Quarterbacks. Who are your favorite quarterbacks to watch play? I got a list for you. I can make lists like crazy. That's the same kind of thing here. This isn't so much of a list. It is a list, but it's also ranking football teams that Ohio State will play in the fall and say, of the 12 regular season games, what are the 5 toughest games that Ohio State's going to play? Now, you may say, Jay, it's Ohio State. Like, there may be a school in there that you may say, man, it's not going to be a tough game. Okay, cool. That might be the case. But I think when we look at this list and go 5 through 1, I'm going to alter this thing very quickly because I thought I had it right the first time around, but I realized I jacked up and put the number 4 team in the number 5 spot, which doesn't make much sense. Before I dive into this, I had to make that change here on my notepad. But 5 through 1, the 5 toughest games on Ohio State's schedule in the upcoming season. Number 5, on the road in West Lafayette, Indiana, the Purdue Boilermakers. Now, this is one, not because I think that they are on the caliber, they have the talent that Ohio State has, but I think that may be a tougher test, or really maybe as tough of a test for Ohio State as Maryland at home. I am not too high on Maryland. I am high on Talea. But I can even say off the bye week, Maryland is there. New quarterback for Ohio State going on the road to Purdue for the first time. That could be a tricky place to play. Mackey Arena on the college basketball side is really, really hard to play. Ohio State realizes that in the regular season. They also lost in the postseason, I believe, in 2021 in Mackey Arena as well. So it's a tough place to play, but this one's more for atmosphere and kind of the revenge factor from Ryan Day, not the players. I don't think there were any players, or if there were, just a handful that were actually on the team back then in 2018 when Ohio State got blown out by Purdue that night. So you got Brian Hartline that was there. You got Ryan Day. They want to get that sour taste out of their mouth. This is the time to do it. So maybe this one might be harder for the coaches, Hartline and Day, than the players that are playing in that game. Number 4, the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, Wisconsin, new quarterback, tough, physical brand of football, a brand of football you don't see every single day. You also have a talented running back in Braylon Allen, who was in the running to being one of the best running backs in the Big Ten Football Conference. Would he start at Ohio State? I do think there's a conversation to be made that if Braylon Allen was at Ohio State, that he would be starting for he could start. I'm saying he would start. He could start for the Buckeyes. So I have Wisconsin number 4. And a lot of it's because you don't see this brand of football a lot. Also, a new quarterback could have the game of his life against Ohio State and Camp Randall that day. Don't want it to happen, but it's possible. Number 4 is the Wisconsin Badgers. This next 3 were tough. Number 1 was easy. 2 and 3 were tough. Number 3 on the road at Notre Dame. I can very easily put that at number 2, but I do think number 2 is also going to be the better team when ranking the top 3 teams that Ohio State is facing in this list. Notre Dame is going to be tough. It's probably going to be a night game. It's going to be on NBC. NBC has the Notre Dame contract. NBC has the Saturday night games for the Big Ten as well in the upcoming season. And so it's an NBC game. You're going to be talking to different people in productions meetings you're not used to. You don't normally go to South Bend, Indiana. It's not a far trip from Columbus to South Bend. So it's not like you're saying, oh, Jay, how far away is it? Are they going from Columbus to Mississippi? No, it's not that far. The traveling is not that far for Ohio State. but I believe it's going to be the 75, maybe 80,000 fans that'll be at the game, loud, strong. And I know for a fact the Buckeye fans will be there in Notre Dame Stadium, loud and representing their team. But at the same time, they want revenge. There's an added level of intensity in this game. You have James Laurinaitis, who was a former coach last year at Notre Dame, multi-time All-American when he was at Ohio State. He's back at Ohio State after coaching with Marcus Freeman a year ago, who was a former linebacker with Laurinaitis at Ohio State, who was in his second year of coaching and being the head coach at Notre Dame. So that little thing alone, that detail, I want to say Al Washington's still there as well. So the coaches and the history in Notre Dame, Ohio State, and the amount of times that those two teams has played in the history of the sport, I want to say it's only 5. A couple times in the regular season in the 90s, the Eddie George year, I believe they played Notre Dame, played in a bowl game recently, 2017 or 2018 maybe. It was a Fiesta Bowl in that season. Notre Dame's going to be tough. Also got a new quarterback coming in. Might be the best quarterback they've had in a while. Notre Dame is going to be tough. Number 2, Penn State. You could always pencil this bad boy down, and I wish it was going to be the old school way of the night game. Probably going to be a noon kick on Big Fox. Cool, great. But Penn State, Drew Aller, is he the quarterback that can lead Penn State over Ohio State? We're going to wait and see. James Franklin, how is he going to be in this year? A lot of hype on him and his team this year. What's going to happen? But you also got to add in the physicality, and that in most years, Penn State is the toughest game the Buckeyes play in the regular season. Say all that to say this. Penn State's number 2. Even though it's a home game, it's number 2. And the number 1 is Michigan. Enough said. The team up north, we don't like them. They don't like us. It's easily the biggest game of the year, the toughest game of the season. It's on the road. We all remember that horrific scene that's implanted into our minds in regards to what happened the last time the Buckeyes played the Wolverines inside the Big House. Nobody wants that to happen again. No Ohio State fan wants that to happen again. It's the toughest game all year, every year. And you know what? I would feel like I would not be doing my job right if I came on this show and said, oh, toughest game of the year. It's not Michigan. It's Penn State and Notre Dame. I ain't that guy. I want to be real with you. Be realistic. That's number 1, hands down, every season. What's your list, 5 through 1? What are the 5 toughest games that you see Ohio State playing in 2023? Leave them in the YouTube comment section. 5 through 1. I'll look at it. I'll see it. And if you want to add some commentary to what I had to say about this, go ahead and do that. I love the back and forth. I love the comments you guys leave on Locked On Buckeyes YouTube channel. Does the regular season for Ohio State prepare them for the college football playoff, as that is the ultimate goal at the end of the season? Well, one of the goals at the end of the season. We will discuss that. I have an answer for you next here on Locked On Buckeyes. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on the Odyssey app, on Apple, on Spotify, on the YouTube. Wherever you get your fine podcasts, you can find Locked On Buckeyes there 5 days a week. Also, Locked On Buckeyes is available on the SiriusXM app as well. I utilize SiriusXM on a regular basis, and if you're like me, the app is on your phone. You know, hey, they got podcasts. Locked On Buckeyes is there for your enjoyment 5 days a week as well. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes so you don't miss a beat. I have taken some time, maybe earlier in the offseason, to kind of look and dive into and dissect and digest and really think about Ohio State's schedule going into the season. The season is going to be special. I don't know how special, but I have a feeling this is going to be a special season for Ohio State fans, Ohio State coaches, Ohio State players, everybody involved. And with that in mind, you got to realize that it goes back. A season can be special, but a special season might have special games or tough games or games that were tough but turned into special because of some heroic performances by the players that are on the team. Indiana on the road should be an easy game. Cakewalk. Ohio State's used to going to Bloomington, Indiana, and beating up on the Hoosiers. So I don't think I don't think that's going to be in jeopardy. Youngstown State, okay, cool. Play them. Have fun with them. Get your feet wet. Kyle McCord, have a day against Youngstown State. Western Kentucky, a team that's getting more respect of late with the offense and things like that. But also, Western Kentucky is a team that can change things, shake things up. Also, the defense could really show up and perform in a phenomenal way that day. Those 3 games prepare you for going to South Bend to play Notre Dame week 4 of the season. You already had a road game in Indiana. You had 2 home games. You had plenty of time to get your feet wet and to get acclimated and to figure out what you are as a football team. But in comes the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. No, you go to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. After that, home against Maryland, on the road against Purdue, home against Penn State, on the road against Wisconsin, on the road against Rutgers, home against Michigan State, home against Minnesota, then on the road at Michigan. I do think this season will prepare the Buckeyes for the college football playoff better than most. I think back to the 2019 season, some of that was an easy schedule, but it also was the Buckeyes are really good, but also you just kind of realize like that season was a cakewalk. The Buckeyes just ran right through everybody in the regular season. The Big Ten championship game, won that thing as well. Next thing you know, you're up against Clemson. Yes, it was a 6-point loss, but also if there were some tougher contests in the season, that may prepare Ohio State for a tough game against Clemson in the playoff in that year. But I do think I can highlight some games that I didn't even highlight in my 5 toughest games of the season a segment ago. Notre Dame's going to be tough. Western Kentucky will throw out some different wrinkles and will add and provide a different challenge for the Buckeyes going forward in that game. Maryland's going to be tough. Talaya is a phenomenal quarterback, really good. He can use his legs, really good at using his arm. And I really think that him coming here after losing a year ago, you're going to get Talaya to come in here and say, hey, can I light these boys up? If I can light the Buckeyes up and come out of here with the win, that's going to shake things up for the Buckeyes. But also at the same time, I think it's going to prepare them for the playoff. At Purdue, home against Penn State. That Penn State game is going to be tough, man. Like, I am higher on Penn State than I normally am in any given season going into it. I am a person that says, oh, no, Penn State, I'm not buying the hype. I'm not doing it. I'm not even fully buying the hype on Drew Aller yet. I need to wait and see what kind of quarterback he is after he gets some game reps under his belt. Ultimately, though, the front, the defense, James Franklin, and some of the questions I have about Ohio State, that's why I think this game's going to be huge. Also, that Penn State game's always tough. Extremely tough. I'm also glad you're not playing Penn State game 10, Michigan game 12. I'm also glad you're not playing Penn State game 8 or Penn State game 9 or game 8 and then Michigan game 10. Like, you're not doing that. There's enough time between the Penn State game, game 7, week 8, and then the Michigan game, week 13, game 12. There's plenty of time between that for you to be able to grow, get better, play some lesser competition, get better in those games as well to prepare for the toughest test of the season. I do like that Ohio State has 3 big tests in this season. Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan. I can add Wisconsin in there, but I don't think Wisconsin is going to be a top 10 team in any preseason poll predicting what might happen or predicting the top teams going into the season. I think Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan will be top 10 teams going into the season in any poll. CBS Sports, ESPN, Fox Sports, Sporting News, whatever it is, the Sagarin rankings. I don't even know if they have a preseason ranking come out, but if they do, I still think all of those teams will be in the top 10. The schedule, the Big Ten's not a great brand of football consistently week in, week out. It's not. But what I think this schedule does, it does prepare them better than it does in most years for the college football playoff at the end of the season. We're out of here on a Friday, a feel-good Friday around here for those of us here at Locked on Buckeyes. Really enjoy coming back and can't wait to dive into more Buckeye news, Buckeye predictions during next week's shows. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. count. For Locked On Buckeyes on a Feel Good Friday, I am Jay Stevens. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.